Hey, 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 girl, hey. Tiffany. Shayla just sent me a message. I don't know if she up here yet. That's Wabu, that's Wabu. Okay. Greetings, Uncle Nathaniel. Wait for Shayla to come in. Shayla, you here? And she ain't here. She just sent me a message. She said, hey, you okay? Shayla be on it, boy. Lavon, good morning. All right, beautiful people. Let's go ahead and get started. Shayla, here I am. Look, I was hitting live right when I saw your message come through. I was like, boy, Shayla be on it. Okay, y'all. Yeah, I appreciate you checking in. So if there's a day where I'm extremely late, something might be wrong. Yeah. Or yeah. But hopefully I will have no emergencies and I'll be here. But yeah, so remember the weekend, I think I was just 1 minute off today. I saw your message come through right while I was about to log in. Remember, the weekend at 7:30. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the shimmer real quick. Yeah, so y'all know if there's a day where I'm extremely late and I haven't posted a message on Facebook because I can't do the message on YouTube. Aliyah, peace and blessings. Y'all know something might be wrong. So if you can't get in touch with me, get in touch with my sisters or my mom or somebody. But I don't foresee any of that happening. Prayerfully. Blessed be the most holy. Because we don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow. But yeah. Okay, so y'all, so let's go ahead and do the Shema. Today it is Sunday. Happy Sunday, beautiful people. Happy Sunday. What's the wrong section? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. All right, y'all. It is Sunday, February 28th, 2021, day 89 of year through reading through the books of the law and the prophets and of the 3-year consecutive day count. Day 758, y'all. We start March tomorrow. It's been a whole year since the vid broke out, y'all. It's a whole year later. Where does the time go? Right? I don't know. Today we are reading Deuteronomy 31, 32, and is it 31 chapters? 33 chapters? I'm about to see. Because I forget sometimes when we get to the end of Deuteronomy. I think it's like 36 chapters. But let me not say that. We're going to see in a second. Let's do the Shema first. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the God of our fathers, has promised us, in the land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our God, He is one God. And you shall love Yahuwah your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children. And you shall talk of them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah our God for our good always, that He might preserve us alive as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah our God, as He has commanded us. All right, let me double check this real quick. Okay, yeah. All right, so Deuteronomy 31, y'all. Hold on, let me check something. Let's keep switching. 34. So we'll be finished with Deuteronomy tomorrow, y'all. Then we start in the book of Joshua. Okay, Joshua becomes Israel's leader. Yep, here we go. Okay. All right, y'all. So Deuteronomy chapter 31. Okay. When Moses had finished giving these instructions to all the people of Israel, he said, I am now 120 years old, and I am no longer able to lead you. Yahuwah has told me you will not cross the Jordan River, but Yahuwah your God himself will cross over ahead of you. He will destroy the nations living there, and you will take possession of their land. Joshua will lead you across the river, just as Yahuwah promised. Yahuwah will destroy the nations living in the land, just as he destroyed Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites. Yahuwah will hand over to you the people who live there, and you must deal with them as I have commanded you. So be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid and do not panic before them, for Yahuwah your God will personally go ahead of you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. Then Moses called for Joshua, and as all Israel watched, he said to him, Be strong and courageous, for you will lead these people into the land that Yahuwah your God has sworn unto their ancestors. For you will lead these people into the land that Yahuwah swore to their ancestors he would give them. You are the one who will divide it among them as their rents of land. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for Yahuwah will personally go ahead of you. He will be with you. He will neither fail you nor abandon you. The public reading of the book of instruction. So Moses wrote this entire body of instruction in a book and gave it to the priests who carried the ark of Yahuwah's covenant and to the elders of Israel. Then Moses gave them this command. At the end of every 7th year, the year of release, during the festival of shelters, you must read this book of instruction to all the people of Israel when they assemble before Yahuwah your God at the place he chooses. Call them all together, men, women, children, and the foreigners living in your towns, so that they may hear this book of instruction and learn to fear Yahuwah your God and carefully obey all the terms of these instructions. Do this so that your children who have not known these instructions will hear them and will learn to fear Yahuwah your God. Do this as long as you live in the land you are crossing the Jordan to occupy. And because we're not there, we are doing it in the land of our captors, getting in practice for when we return, right? That's what Yahuwah said. He said, your descendants, when they get kicked out, they are going to read the Torah daily. They didn't do it here, so they're going to do it in the land of their captivity until they return. They should have got that practice and kept to it while they were here, because if they had kept to it, they wouldn't have been kicked out. But now they're going to be kicked out, and they're going to start experiencing some of the harshest things, and now they're going to run to it, and they're going to read it daily, and it's going to get into it, and I'm going to inscribe it on their hearts, right? Then Yahuwah said to Moses, the time has come for you to die. Call Joshua and present yourselves at the tabernacle so that I may commission him there. So Moses and Joshua went and presented themselves at the tabernacle. And Yahuwah appeared to them in a pillar of cloud that stood at the entrance to the sacred tent. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, you are about to die and join your ancestors. After you are gone, these people will begin to worship foreign gods, the gods of the land where they are going. They will abandon me and break my covenant that I have made with them. Then my anger will blaze forth against them. I will abandon them, hiding my face from them, and they will be devoured. A terrible trouble will come down on them, and on that day they will say, these disasters have come down on us because Yahuwah is no longer among us. At that time, I will hide my face from them on the account of all the evil they commit by worshiping other gods. So write down the words of this song and teach it to the people of Israel. Help them learn it so that it may serve as a witness for me against them. For I will bring them into the land I swore to give their ancestors, a land flowing with milk and honey. There they will become prosperous, eat all the food they want, and become fat. But they will begin to worship other gods, and they will despise me and break my covenant. And when great disasters come down on them, this song will stand as evidence against them, for it will never be forgotten by their descendants. I know the intentions of these people even now before they have entered the land I swore to give them. So he already telling Moses, listen, Moses, although you ain't going to be here to see it, when they get in here, this is what's going to happen. They're going to break my covenant. And I'm going to put upon them all these curses that I told you I would put upon them if they ever turned away. So that very day, Moses wrote down the words of the song and taught it to the Israelites. Then Yahuwah commissioned Joshua the son of Nun with these words, be strong and courageous, for you must bring the people of Israel into the land I swore to give them. I will be with you. When Moses had finished writing this entire body of instruction in a book, he gave this command to the Levites who carried the ark of Yahuwah's covenant. Take this book of instruction and place it beside the ark of the covenant of Yahuwah your God, so that it may remain there as a witness against the people of Israel. For I know how rebellious and stubborn you are. Even now, while I am still alive and am here with you, you have rebelled against Yahuwah. How much more rebellious will you be after my death? Now summon all the elders and officials of your tribe, so that I can speak to them directly and call heaven and earth to witness against them. I know that after my death, you will become utterly corrupt and will turn away from the way I have commanded you to follow. In the days to come, disaster will come down on you, for you will do what is evil in Yahuwah's sight, making him very angry with your actions. So Moses recited this entire song publicly to the assembly of Israel. Deuteronomy 32, and here is the song. Listen, O heavens, and I will speak. Hear, O earth, the words that I say. Let my teaching fall on you like rain. Let my speech settle like dew. Let my words fall like rain on tender grass, like gentle showers on young plants. I will proclaim the name of Yahuwah. How glorious is our God. He is the rock. His deeds are perfect. Everything he does is just and fair. He is a faithful God who does no wrong. How just and upright is he. But they have acted corruptly towards him. When they act so perversely, are they really his children? They are a deceitful and twisted generation. Is this the way you repay Yahuwah, you foolish and senseless people? Isn't he your father who created you? Has he not made you and established you? Remember the days of long ago. Think about the generations past. Ask your father, and he will inform you. Inquire of your elders, and they will tell you. When the Most High assigned lands to the nations, when he divided up the human race, he established the boundaries of the peoples according to the number in his heavenly court. For the people of Israel belong to Yahuwah. Jacob is his special possession. He found them in a desert land, in an empty, howling wasteland. He surrounded them and watched over them. He guarded them as he would guard his own eyes, like an eagle that rouses her chicks and hovers over her young. So he spread his wings to take them up and carried them safely on his pinions. Yahuwah alone guided them. They followed no foreign gods. He let them ride over the high lands and feast on the crops of the field. He nourished them with honey from the rock and olive oil from the stony ground. He fed them yogurt from the herd and milk from the flock, together with the fat of lambs. He gave them choice rams from Bashan and goats together with the choicest wheat. You drank the finest wine, made from the juice of grapes. But Israel soon became fat and unruly. The people grew heavy, plump, and stuffed. Then they abandoned Yahuwah who had made them. They made light of the rock of their salvation. They stirred up his jealousy by worshiping foreign gods. They provoked his fury with detestable deeds. They offered sacrifices to demons which are not God, to gods they had not known before, to new gods only recently arrived, to gods their ancestors have never feared. You neglected the rock who had fathered you. You forgot the God who had given you birth. Yahuwah saw this and drew back, provoked to anger by his own sons and daughters. He said, I will abandon them. Then see then what becomes of them. for they are a twisted generation, children without integrity. They have roused my jealousy by worshiping things that are not God. They have provoked my anger with their useless idols. Now I will rouse their jealousy through people who are not even a people. I will provoke their anger through the foolish Gentiles, for my anger blazes forth like fire and burns to the depths of the grave. It devours the earth and all its crops and ignites the foundations of the mountains. I will heap disasters upon them and shoot them down with my arrows. I will weaken them with famine, burning fever, and deadly disease. I will send the fangs of wild beasts and poisonous snakes that glide in the dust. Outside, the sword will bring death, and inside, terror will strike, both young men and young women, both infants and the aged. I would have annihilated them, wiping out even the memory of them. But I feared the taunt of Israel's enemy, who might misunderstand and say, our own power has triumphed. Yahuwah had nothing to do with this. But Israel is a senseless nation. The people are foolish without understanding. Oh, that they were wise and could understand this. Oh, that they might know their fate. How could one person chase 1,000 of them and 2 people put 10,000 to flight? Unless the rock had sold them, unless Yahuwah had given them up. But the rock of our enemies is not like our rock, even as they recognize. Their vine grows from the vine of Sodom, from the vineyards of Gomorrah. Their grapes are poison, and their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the venom of serpents, the deadly poison of cobras. Yahuwah said, am I not storing up these things, sealing them away in my treasury? I will take revenge. I will pay them back. In due time, their feet will slip. Their day of disaster will arrive, and their destiny will overtake them. Indeed, Yahuwah will give justice to his people, and he will change his mind about his servants when he sees their strength is gone and no one is left, slave or free. Then he will ask, where are their gods, the rocks they fled to for refuge? Where are those gods who ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their offerings? Let those gods arise and help you. Let them provide you with shelter. Look now, I myself am he. There is no other God but me. I am the one who kills and gives life. I am the one who wounds and heals. No one can be rescued from my powerful hand. Now I raise my hand to heaven and declare, as surely as I live, when I sharpen my flashing sword and begin to carry out justice, I will take revenge on my enemies and repay those who reject me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, and my sword will devour flesh, the blood of the slaughter and the captives and the heads of the enemy leaders. Rejoice with him, you heavens, and let all of Yahuwah's angels worship him. Rejoice with his people, you Gentiles, and let all the angels be strengthened in him. For he will avenge the blood of his children, for he will take revenge against his enemies. He will repay those who hate him and cleanse his people's land. So Moses came with Joshua, the son of Nun, and recited all the words of this song to the people. When Moses finished reciting all these words to the people of Israel, he added, take to heart all the words of warning I have given you today. Pass them on as a command to your children, so that they will obey every one of these instructions. These instructions are not empty words. They are your life. By obeying them, you will enjoy a long life in the land you will occupy when you cross the Jordan River. That same day, Yahuwah said to Moses, go to Moab, to the mountains east of the river, and climb Mount Nebo, which is across from Jericho. Look out across the land of Canaan, the land I am giving to the people of Israel as their own special possession. Then you will die there on the mountain. You will join your ancestors just as Aaron your brother died on Mount Hor and joined his ancestors. For both of you betrayed me with the Israelites at the water of Meribah at Kadesh in the wilderness of Zin. You failed to demonstrate my holiness to the people of Israel there, so you will see the land from a distance, but you may not enter the land I am giving to the people of Israel. Whew. Y'all, I had to contain myself with that right there. Eyes getting all teary and stuff. Trying to keep my voice from cracking, because as I read it, Everything Yahuwah has said has come true and is in effect for his people. I'm just thinking about our generation, our lifetime, right? Deuteronomy chapter 33. Moses blesses the people. This is the blessing that Moses, the man of God, gave to the people of Israel before his death. Yahuwah came from Sinai and dawned upon us from Mount Seir. He shone forth from Mount Paran and came from Meribah Kadesh with flaming fire at his right hand. Indeed, he loves his people. All his holy ones are in his hands. They follow in his steps and accept his teaching. Moses gave us Yahuwah's instruction, the special possession of the people Israel. Yahuwah became king in Israel when the leaders of the people assembled, when the tribes of Israel gathered as one. Moses said this about the tribe of Reuben: let the tribe of Reuben live and not die out, though they are few in number. Moses said this about the tribe of Judah: O Yahuwah, hear the cry of Judah and bring them together as a people. Give them strength to defend their cause and help them against their enemies. Moses said this about the tribe of Levi: O Yahuwah, you have given your Tumim and your Urim, the sacred lots, to your faithful servants the Levites. You put them to the test at Massah and struggled with them at the waters of Meribah. The Levites obeyed your word and guarded your covenant. They were more loyal to you than to their own parents. They ignored their relatives and did not acknowledge their own children. They teach your regulations to Jacob and give your instructions to Israel. They present incense before you and offer whole burnt offerings on the altar. Bless the ministry of the Levites, O Yah, and bless all the work of their hands. Hit their enemies where it hurts the most. Strike down their foes so they never rise again. Moses said this about the tribe of Benjamin: the people of Benjamin are beloved by Yahuwah and live in safety beside him. He surrounds them continuously and preserves them from every harm. Moses said this about the tribes of Joseph: may their land be blessed by Yahuwah with the precious gift of dew from the heavens and water from beneath the earth, with rich fruit that grows in the sun, and the rich harvest produced each month, with the finest crops of the ancient mountains, and the abundance from the everlasting hills, with the best gifts of the earth and its bounty, and the favor of the one who appeared in the burning bush. Close that, please. Thank you. May these blessings rest on Joseph's head, crowning the brow of the prince among his brothers. Joseph has the majesty of a young bull. He has the horns of a wild ox. He will gore distant nations, even to the ends of the earth. This is my blessing for the multitudes of Ephraim and the thousands of Manasseh. Moses said this about the tribes of Zebulun and Issachar: may the people of Zebulun prosper in their travels. May the people of Issachar prosper at home in their tents. They summon the people to the mountain to offer proper sacrifices there. They benefit from the riches of the sea and the hidden treasures in the sand. Moses said this about the tribe of Gad: blessed is the one who enlarges Gad's territory. Gad is poised there like a lion to tear off an arm or head. The people of Gad took the best land for themselves. A leader's share was assigned to them. When the leaders of the people were assembled, they carried out Yahuwah's justice and obeyed his regulations for Israel. Moses said this about the tribe of Dan: Dan is a lion's cub leaping out from Bashan. Moses said this about the tribe of Naphtali: O Naphtali, you are rich in favor and full of Yahuwah's blessings. May you possess the west and the south. Moses said this about the tribe of Asher: may Asher be blessed above other sons. May he be esteemed by his brothers. May he bathe his feet in olive oil. May the bolts of your gates be of iron and bronze. May you be secure all your days. There is no one like the God of Israel. He rides across the heavens to help you, across the skies in majestic splendor. The eternal God is your refuge, and his everlasting arms are under you. He drives out the enemy before you. He cries out, destroy them. So Israel will live in safety, prosperous Jacob in security, in a land of grain and new wine, while the heavens drop down dew. How blessed are you, O Israel! Who else is like you, a people saved by Yahuwah? He is your protecting shield and your triumphant sword. Your enemies will cringe before you, and you will stomp on their backs. You know what? Let's go ahead and read this last chapter. Since it's the last chapter in Deuteronomy, and we'll just start the new book of Joshua tomorrow. The death of Moses, the last chapter of Deuteronomy chapter 34. Then Moses went up to Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab and climbed Pisgah Peak, which is across from Jericho. And Yahuwah showed him the whole land from Gilead as far as Dan, all the lands of Naphtali, the land of Ephraim and Manasseh, all the lands of Judah, extending to the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev, the Jordan Valley with Jericho, the city of palms as far as Zor. Then Yahuwah said to Moses, this is the land I promised on oath to give to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob when I said I would give it to your descendants. I have now allowed you to see it with your own eyes, but you will not enter the land. So Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, died there in the land of Moab, just as Yahuwah had said. Yahuwah buried him in a valley near Beth Peor in Moab, but to this day no one knows the exact place. Moses was 120 years old when he died, yet his eyesight was clear and he was as strong as ever. The people of Israel mourned for Moses on the plains of Moab for 30 days until the customary period of mourning was over. Now Joshua, the son of Nun, was full of the spirit of wisdom, for Moses had laid his hands on him. So the people of Israel obeyed him, doing just as Yahuwah had commanded Moses. There has never been another prophet in Israel like Moses, whom Yahuwah knew face to face. Yahuwah sent him to perform all the miraculous signs and wonders in the land of Egypt against Pharaoh and all his servants and his entire land. With mighty power, Moses performed terrifying acts in the sight of all of Israel. And that, my beautiful people, is the last 4 books of Deuteronomy, 31, 32, 33, and 34. So let us hop on over here to the Legends of the Jews. And we'll pick it up. Where we at? We at 26 minutes. We read 4 chapters a day. Yesterday we read 3 until the hour and 8 minutes. We finished with these 4 in 26. All right, y'all. Legends of the Jews, chapter 6, page 350 if you got the big book like I do. But if you got a smaller book with the different page numbers, we are in chapter 6. Balaam, this is from Balaam through Joshua. That's what it says. So the entire chapter 6 is talking about everything from Balaam to Joshua, which also is going to tell us about the actual death of Moses, right? Oh, yeah. I flipped right to it. Oh, man. But it's going to be a couple days when we get there. All right. Okay, so let's start. Chapter 6, and the subheading for the first chapter is Balaam, the heathen prophet, right? Okay. The man whom the Moabites and the Midianites believed to be Moses' peer was none other than Laban, Israel's arch enemy, who in olden days had wanted to root out entirely Jacob and all his family, and who had later on incited Pharaoh and Amalek against the people of Israel to bring about their destruction. Hence, too, the name Balaam, devourer of nations, for he was determined to devour the nation of Israel. That's what Balaam means. Balaam, devourer of nations. Okay. Hence, too, the name Balaam, devourer of nations, for he was determined to devour the nation of Israel. Just at this time, Balaam was at the zenith of his power, for his curse had brought upon the Moabites their defeat at the hands of Sihon, and his prophecy that the compatriot Baylett should wear the royal crown just. Hold on. I was reading it too fast. I'm sorry. Just at this time, Balaam was at the zenith of his power, for his curse had brought upon the Moabites their defeat at the hands of Sihon, and his prophecy that this compatriot Baylett should wear the royal crown had just been fulfilled, so that all the kings sent ambassadors to seek advice from him. He had gradually developed from an interpreter of dreams to a sorcerer, and had not attained the still greater dignity of prophet, thus even surpassing his father, who had indeed been a prophet too, but not so notable one as his son. Yahuwah would permit the heathens to have no ground for exculpation, for saying in the future world, Thou hadst kept us far from thee. To them, as well as to Israel, he gave kings, sages, and prophets. But whereas the former showed themselves worthy of their high trust, the latter proved themselves unworthy of it. Both Solomon and Nebuchadnezzar were rulers over all the world. The former built the temple and composed many hymns and prayers. The latter destroyed the temple and cursed and blasphemed Yahuwah, saying, I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Both David and Haman received great treasures from Yahuwah, but the former employed them to a secure site for Yahuwah's sanctuary, whereas the latter with his tried to destroy the whole nation. Moses was Israel's prophet. Balaam was prophet of the heathens. But how great a contrast between these two. Moses exhorted his people to keep from sin, whereas Balaam counseled the nations to give up their moral course of life and to become addicted to lewdness. Balaam was also different from the Israelite prophet in his cruelty. They had such pity for the nations that misfortune among the heathens caused them suffering and sorrow, whereas Balaam was so cruel that he wanted to destroy an entire nation without any cause. Balaam's course of life and his actions show convincingly why Yahuwah withdrew from the heathen the gift of prophecy. For Balaam was the last of the heathen prophets. Shem had been the first whom Yahuwah had commissioned to communicate his words to the heathens. This was after the flood, when Yahuwah said to Shem, had my Torah existed among the previous 10 generations, I suppose I should not have destroyed the world by the flood. Go now, announce to the nations of the earth my revelations. Ask them if they will not accept my Torah. Throughout 400 years did Shem go about as a prophet, but the nations of the earth did not heed him. The prophets that labored after him among the heathens were Job and his 4 friends, Eliphaz, Zophar, Bildad, and Elihu, as well as Balaam, all of whom were descendants of Nahor, Abraham's brother, from his union with Milcah, in order that the heathen might not say, had we had a prophet like Moses, we should have received the Torah. Yahuwah gave them Balaam as a prophet, who in no way was inferior to Moses, either in wisdom or in the gift of prophecy. Moses was indeed the greatest prophet among the Israelites, but Balaam was his peer among the heathens. But although Moses excelled in the heathen, But although Moses excelled the heathen prophet in that Yahuwah called him without any previous preparation, whereas the other could obtain divine revelations only through sacrifices, still Balaam had one advantage over the Israelite prophet. Moses had to pray to Yahuwah to show him his ways, whereas Balaam was the man who could declare himself that he knew the knowledge of the Most High. But because, in spite of his high prophetic dignity, Balaam had never done anything good or kind, but through his evil tongue had almost destroyed all the world, Yahuwah vowed a vow to his people that he would never exchange them for any other people or nation, and that he would never permit them to dwell in any land other than Palestine, which we know, according to the understanding of the person who composed the books, his thoughts is Palestine, but we know it's much greater than what we know as Palestine today, right? Okay. Balett's message to Balaam. Baylett now sent messengers to Balaam with the following message. Think not that I ask thy help against Israel exclusively in my own interest, and that thou canst expect from me alone honor and rewards for thy service, but rest assured that all nations will then honor thee, that Canaanite as well as Egyptians will cast themselves at thy feet when thou shalt have destroyed Israel. This people that have gone out of Egypt have covered the earth, have covered with earth Sihon and Og, the eyes that guarded the whole land, and now they are about to destroy us as well. They are not indeed greater heroes than we, nor are their hosts more numerous than ours, but they conquer as soon as they open their lips in prayer, and that we cannot do. Boom. While they are out there fighting with swords and stuff, we conquer by the words of our mouth. Listen to what this king just said. This people that have gone out of Egypt have covered with earth Sihon and Og. Remember, Sihon and Og was the two greatest kings. They were demigods. So they were half mortal, half immortal. They were the offspring of the angels themselves who had come down here and had sex with human women, right? That's them. It said the Israelites have covered Sihon and Og with earth, like he put them in the dirt. Listen, this people that have gone out of Egypt have covered with earth Sihon and Og, the eyes that guarded the whole land, and now they are about to destroy us as well. They are not indeed greater heroes than we are, nor are their hosts more numerous than ours, but they conquer as soon as they open their lips in prayer, and that we cannot do. Try now to see if I may not gradually become their master, so that I may at least lead a certain percent of them to destruction, be it only a 24th part of them. Baylett himself was even a greater magician and soothsayer than Balaam, but he lacked the gift of properly grasping prophetic observations. He knew that through his sorcery that he was to be the cause of the death of 24,000 Israelites, but he did not know in which way Israel was to suffer so great a loss. Hence he requested Balaam to curse Israel, hoping by this curse to be able to restrain Israel from entering the Holy Land. So we get the summed up story about Balaam and Baylett, right? Remember, and we read that already. Baylett called for Balaam to curse Israel. And Yahuwah, remember, Baylett was at his place chilling, and Yahuwah said, "It's me coming for you." He said, do not go with them. Listen to what they say, do not go with them, right? And so they showed up. He said, look, I can't go with y'all. The Most High already spoke to me. Although Balaam was a heathen prophet, it said he was the peer of Moses in everything, in his wisdom itself. For Balaam used all his gifts to do what was wrong, right? He never did anything good or kind with all the gifts Yahuwah had bestowed upon him. Moses was the prophet of Israel. Balaam was the prophet of the nations who carried the same gifts that Moses had, right? Listen, so it's that Balaam right here that it's talking about. This is giving you the expanded story of what we didn't get in the Bible, or what was not canonized in the Bible that everybody has. Listen, I'll go back up. Baylett himself was even a greater magician and soothsayer than Balaam. And they called them prophets, and sometimes they called them magicians. Matter of fact, there's a whole thing written about Moses, one of the greatest magicians. Like, they use them words interchangeably: prophet, magician, soothsayer. But at a point, you begin to see a difference, right? And they could tell Moses was more than a magician. Moses was more than a soothsayer. Moses was empowered by the power from on high. That's why they said, look, we can do all this magic, this crazy magic. We can match their gangster. But once they open their mouth, they can call on things that we cannot do. Y'all better let that sit down in your shana now. Baylett himself was even a greater magician and soothsayer than Balaam, but he lacked the gift of properly grasping prophetic observations. He knew through his sorcery that he was to be the cause of the death of 24,000 Israelites, but he did not know in what way Israel was to suffer so great a loss. Hence he requested Balaam to curse Israel, hoping by this curse to be able to restrain Israel from entering the Holy Land. Baylett's messengers to Balaam consisted of the elders of Moab and Midian. The latter were themselves great magicians, and by their art established the truth that Balaam should obey Balak's summons. Their mission against Israel would be successful. But should he hesitate even for a moment to follow them, nothing was to be expected from him. When they now reached Balaam, and he bade them to stay overnight to await his answer, the elders of Midian constantly returned, for they knew that they had now nothing to expect from him. They said, "Is there such a father as hates his son? Yahuwah is the father of Israel. He loves them. How shall he now, owing to a curse from Balaam, turn his love into hatred? Indeed, had the matter depended on Balaam's wishes, he would doubtless instantly have acquiesced and followed Balaam's summons, for he hated Israel more than Baylett, and was much pleased with the commission of the Moabite king. The elders that Baylett had sent had besides in their possession all needful instruments of magic, so that Balaam might have no excuse for not instantly following them. But Balaam had, of course, to bide his time and first find out if Yahuwah would permit him to go to Baylett. Hence he bade the Moabite messengers stay overnight, because Yahuwah never appears to the heathen prophets save in the night. As Balaam expected, Yahuwah appeared by night and asked Balaam, "Who are these people with thee?" Balaam was one of the 3 men whom Yahuwah put to the test, who miserably failed to pass it. When Yahuwah appeared to Cain and asked him, "Where is Abel thy brother?" he tried to deceive Yahuwah. He should have replied, "Lord of the world, what is hidden and what is open, both alike are known to thee. Why then dost thou inquire after my brother?" But instead of this, he replied, "I know not. Am I my brother's keeper?" Yahuwah therefore said to him, "Thou hast spoken of thine own sentence. The voice of thy brother's blood crieth unto me from the ground, and now cursed art thou." Hezekiah acted like Cain when the messengers from the king of Babylon came to him, and Isaiah the prophet asked him, "What said these men?" We ain't got to that part yet. Well, yeah, but Hezekiah, after Yahuwah had healed him, he sealed his fate, trying to show off all the stuff in the palace from the heathen people that came, the messengers. And Isaiah said, "What are these men doing here?" He said, they was inquiring me. They want a little bit of wisdom. And he said, "Oh, what they do while they was here?" He said, "Well, I showed them all the stuff in the palace. I showed them all the beautiful things in the temple that Yahuwah gave us." He said, "You fool, King Hezekiah." He said, "These men are going to come and destroy and take all of these things. You should never have let them in." Look, we're going to get to that when we get to the book of Isaiah. What said these men? I'm going to go back up here. Hezekiah acted like Cain when the messengers from the king of Babylon came to him, and Isaiah the prophet asked him, "What said these men? And from whence came they unto thee?" Hezekiah should have answered, "Thou art a prophet of Yahuwah. Why dost thou ask me?" But instead of giving this answer, he replied haughtily and boastfully, "They are come from a far country unto me, even from Babylon." On account of this haughty answer, Isaiah announced to the king this prophecy: "Behold, the days come that all that is in thine house shall be carried to Babylon, and all thy sons that shall issue from thee shall be eunuchs in the palace of the king of Babylon." The scoundrel Balaam, too, should have made answer to Yahuwah's question, "What men are these with thee?" by saying, "Lord of the world, everything lies open before thee, and nothing is hidden from thee. Why then dost thou ask me?" And we better catch a clue. If Yahuwah show up, as soon as he asks that question, we're going to know, oh shoot, I'm caught. Who is this here lying in your bed? Like, we know we caught. We know by the question he asks us that we know he know. That we know he know what we doing is wrong, right? And listen. The scoundrel Balaam too should have made answer to Yahuwah's question, "What men are these with thee?" by saying, "Lord of the world, everything lies open before thee, and nothing is hidden from thee. Why then dost thou ask me?" But he, on the other hand, made quite a different answer and started to boast, saying to Yahuwah, although thou dost not distinguish me and dost not spread my fame over the world, still the kings seek me. Baylett, the king of Moab, hath sent to ask me to curse Israel. Then Yahuwah said, because thou speakest thus, thou shalt not curse the people. And added, O thou wicked rascal, I said of Israel, he that toucheth them toucheth the apple of my eye, and yet thou wishest to touch them and curse them? Therefore shall thy eye be blinded. Thus Balaam became blind in one eye, as he had already been lame in one foot. Balaam now perceived that Yahuwah did not wish him to curse Israel, said, if it be so, then I shall bless them. Yahuwah said, Yahuwah, they have not need of thy blessing, for they are blessed. Yahuwah said to Balaam, as one says to a bee, neither thy honey nor thy sting. Right? Don't need nothing from you. Your honey, I'm going to use that. Neither your honey nor your sting. Oh, that's good. You will be getting right smart with them too, right? Let me just read that again because that was good. If it be so, then I shall bless them. Yahuwah, they have not need of thy blessing, for they are blessed. Yahuwah said to Balaam, as one says to a bee, neither thy honey nor thy sting. Balaam accepts Balec's invitation. On the following morning, Balaam gave the elders of Moab his answer, saying that he would not follow Balec's call, but not betraying to them the truth that Yahuwah had forbid him to curse Israel. He said instead, Yahuwah said to me, go not with these men, for that would be beneath thy dignity, but await nobler ambassadors. Balaam's plan was to insult Balak so that he should send no further messengers to him, and no one might discover that he could accomplish nothing beyond the word of Yahuwah. His expectations, however, were disappointed. The ambassadors, in their turn, not quite painstakingly in their representation of the truth, told their king that Balaam considered it beneath his dignity to appear in their escort, making no mention of Yahuwah, but speaking as if the refusal came simply and exclusively from Balaam. Thereupon Balak sent more honorable ambassadors to Balaam until he was at last obliged to admit that he could undertake nothing against Yahuwah's command. Even then, it is true, he did not admit that his acceptance or refusal of Balak's invitation depended entirely upon Yahuwah, but declared that he could, if he wished, to do as he chose, but did not choose to transgress Yahuwah's prohibition. In his second embassy, Balak promised Balaam more for his service than he had offered him the first time. Balaam's answer was as follows: if Baylett would give me his house full of silver and gold, I cannot go beyond the word of my Lord. These words characterized the man, who had three bad qualities: a jealous eye, a haughty spirit, and a greedy soul. His jealousy was the reason why he wanted to curse Israel, whom he envied for their good fortune. In his haughtiness, he told the first messengers the falsehood that Yahuwah would not let him go with him because it would be beneath his dignity, and his avarice was expressed in his answer to the second embassy, in which he not only surreptitiously mentioned Balaam's gold and silver, but spoke his mind by explaining to them that their master could not adequately compensate him for his service, saying if Balaam were to hire a host against Israel, his success would still be doubtful, whereas he should be certain of success if he hired me. He did not, however, give even the second embassy a decisive answer, but said to them also, I cannot go beyond the word of Yahuwah my God to do less or more. Now therefore I pray you, tarry ye also here this night, that I may know what Yahuwah will speak unto me more. These words of his held unconscious prophecies. I cannot go beyond the word of Yahuwah was as much as to say that he could not put the blessing of Yahuwah to Israel to naught. Tarry ye also here this night contained the prophecy that the second embassy would be as much disappointed as the first. For although Balaam accompanied the second messengers, still he had no power to curse Israel, but only to bless them. Finally, the words, "What will Yahuwah speak unto me more?" held a prediction that Yahuwah would bestow even more benedictions upon the Israelites through him. Yahuwah permits man to go upon the way he chooses to go. When Yahuwah appeared to Balaam the first time, he said to him, "Thou shalt not go with him." But when Balaam still did not relinquish his desire to go to Baylett, Yahuwah would not interfere. Hence, at his second appearance, Yahuwah said to Balaam, If the men become to call thee, rise up, go with them, but only the word which I speak unto thee thou shalt do. Audacity prevails even before Yahuwah. Balaam's steadfast insistence upon his wish to rest from Yahuwah, his consent to Balaam's journey to Moab. He warned him of its consequences, saying to him, I take no pleasure in the destruction of sinners, but if thou art bound to go to thy destruction, do so. Wheresoever Yahuwah leads righteous men astray upon an evil way, will fall into a ditch of his own digging. I'll read it again. Let me just go back up. Audacity prevails even before Yahuwah. Balaam's steadfast insistence upon his wish wrested from Yahuwah his consent to Balaam's journey to Moab. He warned him of its consequences, saying to him, I take no pleasure in the destruction of sinners, but if thou art bound to go to thy destruction, do so. Whosoever leads righteous men astray upon an evil way will fall into the ditch of his own digging. Balaam was misled by Yahuwah's behavior towards him and thus plunged into destruction. When Yahuwah first appeared to him and asked him, What men are these with thee? This blasphemer thought, Yahuwah knoweth them not. It seems clear that there are times when he is not aware of what goes on, and I shall now be able to do with his children as I wish. Balaam was misled by Yahuwah because he had with these words seduced to unchastity the people who had up to his time lived in purity. Yahuwah's apparent change of decision that first prohibited from him going to Baylett and then permitting him to do so completely bewildered him, so that he thought, Yahuwah at first said to me, Go thou not with them, but the second time he said, Go with them, so too will he change his words, curse them not, into curse them. Just as Balaam was confused by Yahuwah, so too were the magicians that Baylett had sent to him. At the first visit, these had through their magic lore established that he would accept Balaam's invitation, but Yahuwah made him decline it. At the second time, on the other hand, they established that they would not accept the invitation, and Yahuwah made him obey their summons. Balaam's ass. Balaam could hardly await the morning, rejoicing no less than Balaam's messengers at Yahuwah's consent to his journey to Baylett, and still hoping that he might succeed in bringing disaster upon Israel. In his haste to set out, he himself saddled his ass, although he did not lack servants, whereupon Yahuwah said, O thou villain, their ancestor Abraham forestalled thee, for he too rose up early in the morning, and in person saddled his ass to lead Isaac to sacrifice in fulfillment of the command that had reached him. The ass that Balaam took with him had been created on the 6th day of creation. He had received it as a gift from Jacob, that he might not give evil counsel to Pharaoh concerning Jacob's children. It was upon his advice, nevertheless, that Pharaoh forced the Israelites to make bricks. He took his 2 sons, Jonas and Jambres, for it behooves a nobleman always to have at least 2 companions upon any journey he undertakes. Although Yahuwah had now granted him permission to go on the journey, his wrath was kindled when he set out. Yahuwah said, Behold, this man, he knows that I reach each man's heart, and knows also that he departeth only to curse Israel. This wickedness on his part had the result that the angel of mercy turned against him as an enemy, standing in his way. At first the ass alone perceived the angel, and not Balaam, for Yahuwah has so arranged it that human beings may not perceive the angels that surround them, or else they would through terror lose their reason. The ass, on the other hand, instantly perceived the angel. He at first stood in her way as she was in the middle of the road, so that she could turn aside on both sides. Then she perceived him when the road narrowed, and she could turn to one side only. And finally she reached a spot where there was no road to at all which she could turn either on this side or on that. This was to teach Balaam the following lesson. If he wished to curse Abraham's children, he should have leeway on both sides. Ishmael's children and Keturah's children. If he wanted to curse Isaac's children, one would still be open to him, Esau's children. But if he wanted to curse Jacob's children, he should never bring it to pass, for they are protected on both sides. On the one hand by Abraham and Isaac, on the other hand by Jacob and Levi, while Yahuwah watches over them from above. The wall on this side and on that side, through which the place he had to pass, were furthermore to indicate to him that he could not become master over Israel, who have in their possession the tables of the law that were written on both their sides. When the ass reached the wall that Jacob and Laban had erected as a token that they would never pass over it for harm, she thrust her feet against it and pushed him for having broken this agreement with Jacob. Balaam, who had with blows attempted to make the ass walk straight ahead, flew into a rage when she lay down altogether and would not budge from the spot, so that he smote her all the more. Then Yahuwah opened the mouth of the ass and permitted her to use speech, a gift that she had possessed ever since her creation, but had not until then used. Because remember, when we read in the beginning, it wasn't until Adam and Eve sinned that all of creation's mouth was shut. The animals used to be able to talk. I know some people here, they're like, "Girl, get out of here, I'm telling you." When sin happened, everything felt the wrath of the Most High. Like everything, even the earth is not as beautiful as it was before the day that they sinned, right? Everything is bearing the marks of the sins of Adam and Eve, right? Even the animals who can no longer talk, yet they understand and they can perceive and they can see angels. Anybody that got an animal, something happen, y'all know they can see, right? Y'all know they can see. They can. All right. And then Yahuwah opened the mouth of the ass and permitted her to use speech, a gift that she had possessed ever since her creation, but had not until then used. She said, "What have I done unto thee, that thou hast smitten me these 3 times?" The first words of the ass were so chosen as to call Balaam's attention to the wickedness and uselessness of his undertakings against Israel. 3 times was to remind him that he wished to curse a nation that 3 times in every year makes pilgrimages to Yahuwah. The ass's speech was altogether to serve as a warning to beware of his mouth and not to curse Israel. The ass, through her speaking, was to instruct him that the mouth and the tongue are in Yahuwah's hand. Balaam answered the ass in the language in which she had addressed him, in Hebrew, which he did not, however, speak fluently. He said, "Because thou hast mocked me, I would there were a sword in my hand, for now I had killed thee." The ass thereupon replied, "Thou canst not kill me, save with a sword in thy hand. How then wilt thou destroy the entire nation with thy mouth?" Balaam was silent, not knowing what to reply. The ass did not only make him ridiculous in the eyes of the elders of Moab that accompanied him, but she also exposed him as a liar. For when the ambassadors asked him why he had not chosen a horse rather than an ass for his journey, he answered that his saddled horse was in the pasture. Then the ass interrupted him, saying, "Am I not thine ass upon roof?" Look, listen, I'm going to go back up. The ass did not only make him look ridiculous in the eyes of the elders of Moab that accompanied him, but she also exposed him as a liar. For when the ambassadors asked him why he had not chosen a horse rather than an ass for his journey, he answered that his saddled horse was in the pasture. Then the ass interrupted him, saying, Am I not thine ass upon which thou hast ridden all thy life? Balaam, I used thee as a beast of burden, but not for the saddle, the ass. Nay, upon me thou hast ridden since the earliest day, and thou hast always treated me with as much affection as a man treats his wife. Balaam now had to admit that the ass had spoken the truth. Balak's princes were much amazed at this extraordinary miracle, but the ass died the moment she had spoken what she had to say. Yahuwah did this for two reasons. Firstly, because he feared that the heathens might worship this ass were she to stay alive. And secondly, because Yahuwah wanted to spare Balaam the disgrace of having people point to his ass and say, This is she that worsted Balaam. Imagine that. This is she that worsted Balaam. By this action, it can be seen how highly Yahuwah prizes the honor or pious men, if even he sought to spare the honor of this villain. It is out of consideration to mankind also that Yahuwah has closed the mouths of animals, for if they were to speak, man could not well use them for his service, since the ass, the most stupid of all animals, when she spoke, confounded Balaam, the wisest of the wise. Okay, we'll read this next section. It's Sunday. It's really short too. Balaam runs into his own destruction. I really should read these next two. Anyway, let's go. While all this was going on, Balaam still did not perceive that Yahuwah's angel stood before him. Yahuwah meant to show him that in his hand is not only the tongue of man, but his eyes as well, so that as long as he chooses, man will fail to see what is directly before his nose. But Yahuwah suddenly permitted Balaam to see the angel with a sword drawn in his hand, and Balaam fell flat on his face. We may not be able to see them, but I can definitely tell when they're in the room. Like, for real. I really can. Like, sometimes y'all may think y'all be paranoid. You can feel somebody walk in the room. You literally really can. But thanks be to the Most Holy, because if they would have just appeared out of nowhere, we would fall like Daniel to the floor, face first, as dead men. Like, we could probably take it a little bit better if they came knocking at the door. We got a chance. Who is it? Instead of just, boom, hey, sis. And just drop. But I can feel them. I can feel them when they walk into the room, and I can tell the difference between the presences, right? I know y'all can. Okay, listen. But Yahuwah suddenly permitted Balaam to see the angel with the sword drawn in his hand, and Balaam fell flat on his face. For being uncircumcised, Balaam might not listen to the words of Yahuwah or an angel standing erect. Hence, upon perceiving the angel, who instantly began to address him, Balaam cast himself upon the ground. The sword in the angel's hand did not signify that he meant to strike Balaam, for a breath from his mouth would have sufficed to kill myriads, but it was to point out the following truth to Balaam. The mouth was given to Jacob, but to Esau and the other nations the sword. Oh, snap. Hold on. Listen, I know I've been reading this, and I've been saying this to y'all, but something literally just went off in my head about something about when Yahuwah was teaching me about judgment. He said, all you need to do is speak a word, right? And so it literally just clicked. And one morning, how you wake up and you like half sleep and you half woke? Like, I have a lot of those moments where it's like when I'm coming out of a dream state and I'm half in, half out, where I'll see stuff and I can hear clearly. You will say something to me. He says you only need to use your mouth to judge, right? He said you only need to speak. But I was just reminded of that as I'm reading through this, and it really made, like, clearly we know, okay, we can pray, and but it I don't know, it seemed to just really click for a moment for me right here. Hold on. Okay, listen. The sword in the angel's hand did not signify that he meant to strike Balaam, for a breath from his mouth would have sufficed to kill myriads, but it was to point out the following truth to Balaam. The mouth was given to Jacob, but to Esau and the other nations the sword. Thou art about to change thy profession and go out against Israel with his own weapon, and therefore thou shalt find death through the sword that is thy own weapon. The angel now said to Balaam, if I have been commissioned to demand restitution from thee for the injustice thou hast offered to the ass that can show neither meritorious deeds of her own or of her father's, how much more must I stand up as the avenger of an entire nation that have their own merits and can refer to the merits of their fathers? But to return to the ass, why did thou smite her that turned from the road only because she saw me and was frightened? Balaam was a shrewd sinner, for he knew that divine punishment could be averted only by penance, and that the angel have no power to touch a man who after sinning says, I have sinned. Hence he said to the angel, I have sinned. Like I sinned, I screwed up. Like he thinking, like, listen. Balaam was a shrewd sinner, for he knew that divine punishment could be averted only by penance or repentance. He say offer a sacrifice, no human dying for his sins, none of that. Listen, Balaam was a shrewd sinner, for he knew that divine punishment could be averted only by penitence, which is repentance, and that the angels have no power to touch a man who after sinning says, I have sinned. Hence he said to the angel, I have sinned, but added, I did not set out until Yahuwah said to me, rise up and go with them. And now thou sayest to me, return, but this is Yahuwah's way. Did he not also first tell Abraham to sacrifice his son, and then cause an angel to call out to him, lay not thy hand upon the lad? It is his custom first to give a command, and then through the angel to recall it. So also did he say to me, go with them, but if it displeaseth thee, I shall turn back. And the angel replied, all that I have done was to thy advantage, but if thou art bound to plunge into destruction, do so. Go with these people, but destruction is decreed for all of you. Think not, however, that thou shalt do as thou wilt, for thou shalt have to say what I desire thee to speak, and to restrain what I wish remain unuttered. In spite of the warnings he had received from Yahuwah and the angel, he was not to be restrained from taking this fatal step, but in his hatred toward Israel still cherished the hope that he should succeed in obtaining Yahuwah's consent to curse Israel. But he continued his journey in this happy expectation. Balaam with Baylett. Whenever Yahuwah wished to humble an evildoer, he at first exalts him to fill him with pride. Y'all better remember that. Whensoever Yahuwah wishes to humble an evildoer, he at first exalts him to fill him with pride. So too he humbled Balaam after exalting him. For at first Baylett had sent princes of little distinction to him, whereupon Yahuwah said to him, thou shalt not go with him. When, however, he sent many renowned princes to him, Yahuwah said to Balaam, go with them. But this journey bore him nothing but humiliation and ruin, for he fared in accordance with the proverb, pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall. Yahuwah does this so that men might not say, whom hath Yahuwah destroyed? Surely not that insignificant person. Hence Yahuwah exalts sinners before their fall. He said, oh, I need to bring you up real high, so I can let all the people see, oh, you want to get out here? You want to get out here in that froggy? Come on, I'm going to help you jump. Come on, just give them everything. Ooh, so y'all better be careful. Consider your ways. If you think you might be getting off a little bit and your insides, ain't right, and your mind ain't thinking right, and all of a sudden all these things start coming to you, and wait a minute, I'm doing wrong. Why is all this stuff coming to me? Is it because Yahuwah does not see my sinning, my unseen sinning, which is seen by him, and still is blessing me with all these blessings? And you know you doing what's wrong? You might need to stop and consider your ways, because sure as you take your next breath, there is a fall coming along the way. There is a fall coming along the way. Yahuwah does this so that men might not say, whom hath Yahuwah destroyed? Surely not that insignificant person. So he need to bring you up high so everybody can see you and give you a name. Give you a name and make sure everybody can see you. Because ain't nobody going to pay attention to a nobody. You want to be somebody, he going to help you be somebody in the way you want to become somebody so that everybody can see that this somebody is truly nobody. Surely not that insignificant person. Hence, Yahuwah exalts sinners before their fall. Yahuwah keep us all. When Balaam approached the Moabite boundaries, he sent messengers to Balaam to announce his arrival, and Baylett went forth to his country's border to meet him. Pointing to the boundary lines, Baylett said to Balaam, these have been fixed since Noah's days, that no nation might push into the realm of another. But Israel set out to destroy the boundaries as their attitude toward Sihon and Og shows, into whose kingdoms they entered. He then greeted him with the words, did I not twice send unto thee to call thee? Wherefore camest thou not unto me? Am I not able indeed to promote thee to honor? Baylett unconsciously uttered a prophecy, for in truth Balaam went hence in disgrace and dishonor, and not covered with glory, as he could not fulfill the other's wish to curse Israel. It should now have been Balaam's duty, had he really desired to be of service to the king of Moab, to say to him, why dost thou attempt to do what will bring thee misfortune and finally utter ruin? But he spoke quite differently instead, boastfully bragging with his gift of prophecy, pointing out that he was the last prophet among the heathens. And, continued he, I, the last prophet among the heathens, shall thus counsel thee. The ancestor of the nation erected to Yahuwah an altar upon which thrice annually he offered up 7 oxen and 7 rams. Do thou, then, erect 7 altars, and offer up upon them each 7 oxen and 7 rams. Yahuwah laughed when he heard this counsel, saying, every beast of the forest is mine, and the cattle upon 1,000 hills. I know all the fowls of the mountains, and the wild beasts of the field are mine. If I were hungry, I would not tell thee, for the world is mine, and the fullness thereof. Will I eat the flesh of bulls, or drink the blood of goats? Baylett led his guests from the borderline to the interior of the land, taking pains to show him great multitudes of the people, having bazaars erected for that purpose. Pointing to these multitudes, among which there were so many children, Baylett said, Look thou how Israel planned to destroy these multitudes of people that have done to them no injury. Baylett slew for Balaam's welcome 1 ox and 1 sheep, proving the proverb, the pious promise little and do much, the wicked promise much and do little. Baylett had sent a word to Balaam, saying, I will promote thee unto very great honor. When he arrived, he offered him food for only 1 ox and 1 sheep. Suppressing his rage, Balaam thought, is that all that he offers me? He will have to pay for this tomorrow. For he instantly determined to have him offer up many sacrifices on the following day to punish him for having treated him in so niggardly a fashion. That's what the words say right there. What time we at? We're gonna stop right here, y'all. We're gonna pick this up tomorrow because I really want to read this next section. I really want to cut it off here, but we're gonna cut it off. So we'll pick this up as Balaam's sacrifices are refuse tomorrow, y'all. So that was funny, right? I think that's the second time I saw that in here, right? Okay, y'all. So that was Legends of the Jews. We started on page 350, and we paused right here on page 354. We read all of the rest of Deuteronomy, chapters 31, 32, 33, and 34. Y'all, it is Sunday, February 28th, 2021, day 89 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, it is day 758, and that is without the Sabbath days and the feast days added in, mind you. All right, beautiful people. So let's go ahead over here and do the blessing for the day. I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for the day. The blessing is found, everybody knows where. Yep. Numbers chapter 6, verses 22 through 27. And the Nazarite vow is the first 21 verses of Numbers chapter 6. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, May Yahuwah bless us and keep us. May Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. May Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us his peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. All right, beautiful people, that is it for today. Yep, that's it. Let's check through real quick. No questions on either place. So that's it, y'all. I'll see y'all back here tomorrow morning, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bright and early, y'all. Love y'all. Enjoy y'all Sunday. Peace.